In the year 987, a prince sat on throne of Kiev and faced a decision that would echo for the next 1,000 years. He was a Viking warlord. He had expanded his realm across Eastern Europe. He kept hundreds of women. He had taken power through blood. His own brother died at the hands of his men, and he worshipped the old gods. He raised wooden idols on the hill above his palace. The chronicles even describe a human sacrifice carried out in Kiev under his rule. And then this brutal pagan ruler did something unexpected. He went looking for a new religion. According to legend, he summoned a voice from the great faiths of the world. He turned away Islam because it forbade alcohol. He turned away Judaism. He turned away the Church of Rome. And then his men returned from Constantinople and spoke words that became legendary. We knew not whether we were in heaven or on earth. It's one of the most famous stories in all of Russian history. There's just one problem. Most historians believe that the real story was very different and far more calculated. The truth, honestly, is even better. First, who was this man? Vladimir was born around 958. His father was Sviatoslav, the warrior prince of Kievan Rus, the medieval state that became the shared ancestor of Russia, Ukraine, and Belarus. There was a complication. Vladimir's mother wasn't a noble wife. She was a servant in the royal household. In the brutal succession politics of medieval Rus, that put him at a real disadvantage, the son who could always be looked down on. When his father died, war broke out between the brothers. Vladimir fled across the sea to Scandinavia, gathered an army of Norse warriors, and came back to fight for the throne. His brother Yaropolk was killed by Vladimir's men during a parley. Vladimir took Kiev, took Yaropolk's widow into his household, and made himself sole ruler. He was around 20 years old. This is the man the Orthodox Church would one day make a saint. History is complicated. For the early years of his reign, Vladimir was a committed pagan. He set up idols above his palace, with the thunder god Perun at the center. And as the chronicles tell it, his Kiev was a palace where the old gods were served, even in one dark episode with human blood. But Vladimir was ambitious, and he understood something his father never had. A rising state needs more than warriors and idols. It needs a great religion, one that connects it to the powerful, civilized world beyond its borders. Here is the famous story. Every Russian kid grows up hearing it. The primary chronicle, written by monks about 100 years later, says Vladimir held a kind of contest of religions. The Muslim Bulgars came first. They talked about paradise and faith. Vladimir liked it. Then he found out no alcohol allowed. His answer became one of the most famous lines in Russian history. Drinking is the joy of the Rus. We cannot live without it. Islam rejected it. Next came the Jewish Khazars. They explained their faith. Vladimir asked one question: "Where's your homeland?" "We lost it," they said. "God scattered us." Vladimir's answer was cold: "If your God took your land, why would I want his protection?" Judaism rejected. Then came the Church of Rome. Vladimir's men listened. They came back and said there was no glory in it, nothing that touched the soul. Rome rejected. And then Constantinople. Vladimir sent his most trusted men east to see Eastern Christianity for themselves. They walked into the Hagia Sophia, the greatest church of its time. So huge and so beautiful that nothing in the Christian world matched it for almost 1,000 years. A dome that seemed to float, gold everywhere, incense, a choir filling the biggest room they had ever seen. They came home stunned and they told Vladimir, "We didn't know if we were in heaven or on earth. There is no such beauty anywhere on earth. We only know God lives there among men." Vladimir made his choice. Constantinople. It's a beautiful story, but here is the thing. Most historians think it was heavily exaggerated, a tale the monks shaped years later to make Vladimir's choice feel grand and guided by God. That doesn't mean nothing happened. Vladimir probably did talk to different faiths. That part makes sense. But the dramatic contest, the speeches, the perfect rejections, this sounds like a story, not a real history. So what was really going on? Politics. Smart, cold, high stakes politics. In the late 980s, the Byzantine Emperor Basil II was in big trouble. A rival was trying to take his throne. He was desperate. He needed soldiers. Vladimir had soldiers, 6,000 tough Viking warriors. So they made a deal. Vladimir would send his army to help Basil. These warriors became the famous Varangian Guard, the elite bodyguards of the Byzantine emperors. And in return, Vladimir got something no foreign ruler had ever been given: a Byzantine princess, Anna, the emperor's own sister. For Byzantium, this was almost unthinkable. Their princesses didn't marry outsiders, but Basil was desperate, so he agreed on one condition: Vladimir had to become Christian first. Now we can't read Vladimir's mind. Maybe he truly believed, maybe not. But most historians agree politics was a big part of it. This was the marriage deal of the century. A Viking prince buying his way into the most powerful family in the world. But of course, this is Vladimir. Nothing is ever simple. Once the deal was made, the Byzantines started to stall. Maybe Basil regretted giving his sister to a Viking, so Vladimir did what Vladimir does best. He took his army to Crimea and attacked the Byzantine city of Chersonesus. He captured it. Now we had a burgeoning ship. He held the city until the emperor kept his promise. It worked. Anna was sent. Vladimir was baptized. And here the legend adds one last twist. The chronicles say that right before his baptism, Vladimir went blind, and the moment the water touched him, his sight came back. Historians notice something. This is almost exactly the story of the Apostle Paul, who went blind and was healed on the road to Damascus. It's a literally echo, the monk's way of saying, this was real, this was a miracle. Believe the miracle or not, what came next was very real. Vladimir came back to Kiev a Christian, and he moved fast. He ordered all the idols destroyed. The big statue of Perun, the god he used to worship, was tied to a horse, dragged through the streets, beaten with sticks, and thrown into the Dnieper river.
I forgot. You're broken. I don't want to play with you anymore.
Then he called the people of Kiev to the river, everyone, rich and poor. Some versions of the story add a darker line. Anyone who didn't come was no friend of the prince. So the people of Kiev walked into the Dnieper, and Byzantine priests baptized them on the riverbank. This moment, usually dated to 988, is what the Orthodox Church calls the Baptism of Russia, the start of Christianity in the lands that became Russia, Ukraine, and Belarus. But let's be honest about what really happened. This wasn't a whole nation falling in love with the new faith overnight. The rulers chose Christianity from the top down by order. The real conversion of the people took generations. In the north, cities like Novgorod fought it, and old pagan beliefs survived in the villages of centuries, quickly mixed with the new religion. 988 wasn't the end of the story, it was just day one. Vladimir's choice put Rus on a different path from Western Europe. The West followed Rome, Latin, the Pope, and later the Protestant Reformation. Rus turned to Constantinople, Greek traditions, Byzantine art, a whole different kind of Christianity. In 988, there was still technically one Christian church. The big split between Rome and Constantinople, the Great Schism, didn't happen until 1054. 66 years later, the line wasn't drawn yet, but Vladimir's choice put Rus on what would become the eastern side of it. A lot of historians see this as one of the roots of the Eastern Christian tradition, the one that later shaped Russia, Ukraine, and Belarus. Their art, their identity, how they saw themselves. It's not a straight line to the modern world. History never is, but it's a starting point. And here is where it connects to today. Both Russia and Ukraine claim Vladimir or Volodymyr as a founding father. Both trace their roots to the baptism of Rus, and choice made over 1,000 years ago is still being argued about right now in our lifetime. One prince, one decision, still echoing today. Vladimir died in 1015. The church made him a saint. The same man who killed for power, worshipped idols, and took a whole city by force just to get a bread. Holy and brutal, faithful and calculating, all at the same time. History is complicated. That's exactly what makes it worth telling. If you want more stories like this, subscribe to Crazy Russian History.